Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and, of course, Jim Donnan, the Hall of Famer himself, the reason you're watching. And as Brad Newsom points out, it is 11 days till kickoff. Georgia has just completed its second scrimmage. They're back at it. They're shifting gears out of the camp mode into game prep, football season prep, start putting in game plans. They've named a quarterback. They've had a few injuries, and we're going to discuss all of that on today's show with Coach Donnan. If you would do us a great favor, please hit the subscribe button there. We're trying to get to 40,000 subscribers. We've grown almost 1,000 subscribers in the last month, and we really want to hit that 40,000 subscriber number. So if you watch the show all the time, just hit it. It doesn't cost you anything. We greatly appreciate it. And if you hit the little bell symbol, it will notify you when we go live, because sometimes when big news breaks, we go live straight to YouTube to talk about it. We did a little post-game or post-scrimmage reaction that got a lot of views, mainly talking about what we'd heard coming out of the scrimmage. But I think, Coach, I'm going to go straight to you. The question or the topic that I had everybody talking on this past Saturday was the fact that Kirby Smart named his quarterback. Tell us what happened.
Well, I don't know exactly why. I can't tell you what happened, but I know that Kirby, we talked about it last week, that it was very important that there was a real paradox of naming the guy or putting the pressure on him throughout the camp. And I think they did both by waiting until last week to name somebody. He said that felt like Carson deserved the job, and he's had a good spring and fall camp for everything I've heard. And he certainly got the most experience and gives the as the most practice reps, and looks like he's ready to roll. And congratulations to Carson for winning the job.
So Carson Beck is going to be your starter. I don't think that comes as a big surprise to anybody. Any insight to how close the other two are? Because I noticed he said that, hey, they've all done great things. They've all had their moments. How do you – I mean, did Carson win it going away? I mean, I know you're trying to read Kirby's mind, but just in your estimation, how close are these quarterback races? How do you sit these guys down and tell them, hey, this guy won it, but, don't lose heart? How do you address that?
Yeah, I feel like the fact that they waited this long, it was pretty evident that these other guys were definitely in the chase, because they he started out the spring ahead and he finished the spring ahead, and he did the same thing throughout the fall. But the other guys really give you a good skill set to amplify the quarterback position. So I think the major issue to me is to hear Kirby talk is, avoid the bad play and get your team in the right situation as far as huddle call and all that. So, but as I mentioned in the get-go, Carson's had an inordinate amount of reps here as a backup quarterback, as actually the starting quarterback 1 week for the UAB game until Thursday. So it's the issue that everybody in the country talks about that doesn't know anything about Georgia and knows about Georgia, because you lost a guy that was a two-time national champion quarterback. So it's just something that everybody's going to bring out. That I heard Reese Davis say the reason he didn't name us number one preseason because the quarterback situation's up in the air compared to Michigan, So that's just everybody's opinion that, we've got to replace the quarterback, which we do, but it's not like we don't have people that are very good at replacing them. We got some other good quarterbacks too. Jackson Muschamp. I mean, there's some good players here. So we'll be okay at quarterback, and got some good ones coming in with our recruits too.
All right, Dayne, give me your thoughts. You've received a little bit of grief because you and I, back in the day, many, many years ago, were not sold on Carson Beck, and I think it's fair to say he's progressed a long way since then. So apparently you're not allowed to ever change your mind. Once you give an opinion, you have to stick with it forever. regardless of any changing circumstances that go from there. So give me your thoughts on Carson Beck being Dayne's starter.
The exact term that was used was biased love for Stetson, which, I mean, I don't think there's a way to disparage what Stetson Bennett meant to Georgia. If Georgia gets that kind of quarterback production this year, Georgia will win its third straight national championship. I'm very confident in saying that. I don't know if they can repeat that kind of production. It may even look a little bit different. We'll all find out. To answer your original question, from the people that I talked to, this quarterback race was a little bit closer than I think it probably appears at this point. And when Kirby Smart says they can win football games with any of those three quarterbacks, I believe him on that. I think Brock Vandagriff can be plugged into what's going on and go win big-time football games. I think Gunnar Stockton could do good things there too. That also tells me that if there's a bad day for a quarterback, Georgia's in position to be able to do something about it. And, I mean, we've seen with Alabama in previous years, that is a luxury to have multiple guys that you can win games with, because when you don't have that, the whole team can fall apart.
Yeah, that brings us to a great question. Coach, how often did you pull a quarterback? It just seems like if the right guard misses a couple blocks, his butt gets yanked. If the cornerbacks can beat a couple times, he gets yanked. Seems like every spot on the field, you rotate somebody out. But if the quarterback's struggling, people stick with him. And I mean, I get why you do that, but at the same time, it's like, are they being protected? I don't understand as a viewer. So as a coach, explain to us what goes into pulling a quarterback. Not to say that this would happen with Carson Beck. I'm not even referring to that. I just want to know, because we have a former head coach here who's had to make these decisions, and you've always, you've been proven right. And when it didn't go your way, everyone blames you. So what goes into it, Coach?
Well, it's a real fine line for quarterbacks, because there's so many people looking for the quarterback on your team to make the right decisions. And when you do make that call to pull them out, then the tendency is to lose a little confidence among your regular players. If the coach isn't really fired up about him, then how can we be? But I think a lot of it has to do with the way you approach the game that week. If things are in doubt in practice and the guy hasn't looked that good in practice, you talk to your team about, look, we haven't practiced as well as we need to. Radi hasn't thrown the ball as good. We might make a change here. I mean, you just can't make rash decisions based on and sometimes you make impulsive deals that say, look, we got to make a change, and this guy's not doing it. I've told quarterbacks during games, I said, look, I'm trying to hang with you, but one more play like that and I'm going to make a move, and I don't want you to be nervous about it. I'm just telling the reality is I've been sticking with you. And I think you got to have that kind of relationship. You just talk to your quarterback all the time. You meet with them individually, you meet with them as a group, and you talk about their strengths and weaknesses and about how they do in the game situations and what they're going to be looked at to help you win the game. And sometimes it's not the quarterback's fault. I mean, it's a tip pass, it's a missed block, it's whatever it might be. So you're not going to pull them over that. But there comes a point when he's throwing the ball to the other team and not yours, then you're jeopardizing everybody out there. So, but the biggest thing to me is just the communication you have with your team going into the game. This is what it's going to take for us to win this game. Our defense is going to have to play better than ever, because this team's going to score a lot of points, and our offense is going to have to make that happen too every opportunity or as compared to, look, this team can't score if our defense leaves the field. So you do not give them anything, and we got this game and good chance to win it. So you talk to both groups about that. But making a quarterback change is the last thing you want to do, particularly if he's a veteran guy. I mean, it's very difficult to do that. But Kirby has shown a great propensity for knowing how to handle that, even though he caught a lot of grief about the Fromm Field situation. But, that was the way he was basing it. So, but, he made a move early on with Grayson Lambert and put Eason in there. Made a move with JT Daniels a couple years ago, then put Stetson in there. So the coach has a feel for the team.
A lot of times that decision is taken out of your hands, though, because I know Georgia has an easy schedule, but it's still a physical schedule. And you don't have to look further than Tennessee last year to see Hendon Hooker at the end of the season not be able to finish it out because of injury. And whoever wins the job, that's fantastic. But you might end up needing all three of these guys. I mean, a 15-game season, if Georgia does that, that's a lot of football games and a lot of hits that quarterbacks can take. Maybe not as many as others because of Georgia's offensive line, but it's still physical.
We'll go back to Eason. First game of the season, 8 plays in, all of a sudden, you throw Fromm in there, untested, untried. He'd won the job. And then when Eason was healthy, it was Fromm's from there going forward. And of course, the coaches are always going to get grief, but thanks for explaining that, because I always want to know what goes into it. And again, I had my butt pulled many a game, and I look over at like Al Sadler, our quarterback, and I'm like, man, they never pull Al. Of course, he probably never had a bad game, so that's probably why. I coached a couple other things that we heard through the grapevine that came out of the scrimmage was that I'll call him the starting left tackler in the screen. I know that he's in a battle with Austin Blasky for that spot, but I think he was the first one out there. So we'll just say the first guy to get snaps with the offensive line at the left tackle spot. Ernest Green got kind of banged up. Kirby said that he had to come out, then he went back in, then came out for precautionary issues. Then we also, apparently it happened earlier in the week, but we found out that Jackson Meeks was injured as well. We've talked, every time we talk about a scrimmage, we talk about injuries and how you want to go hard and you want your guys to ball out, but at the same time, you don't want to get anybody injured. How concerned are you about maybe your, I don't say zero experience, but your very inexperienced left tackle maybe being a little gimpy 11 days out from kickoff?
Yeah, I mean, that would bother me, that's for sure. I mean, you guys do a better job of knowing about these injuries than I do. I'm the worst in the world to keep up with that stuff. But I think it's good that we have Blasky ready. I mean, he's a veteran guy, and we also have Truss who can play there, started at left tackle. We can move Morris in there at left guard or whoever we needed to. So we got some guys that are pretty flexible. You can also move Mims over to left tackle and, play somebody at right tackle. So, but I think the fact that both these guys have been competing so hard against each other all spring and fall makes it a little easier. But it always worries you when you got a lower extremity injury because you have to move your feet in every position, but particularly offensive line, tackle, But I hope, based on what, Kirby's not going to say much about it, but and I don't blame him. I think people get pissed off because the coach doesn't tell you everything about the injuries, but it's not fair to tell the other team hey, we got a guy left tackle hadn't played because our left tackle's out. So you're going to work all your blitzes on the left tackle. But I think realistically, offensive line is a big, strong suit of our team. The experience depth of our offensive line is not there, but there's talent there, very good talent. And so you should be able to develop even more experience in these first games too with some of these other groups. And the tendency in games like this is not to substitute one or two guys at a time like you would against a team that you're barely beating or something like that. You might put a whole unit in there occasionally, just let them get a feel for how things are going because they've all deserved that opportunity. And I like the fact that Kirby does that from a standpoint of the morale. You've worked hard enough and you've looked good enough against our defense that I feel good about putting you in the game. So we got plenty of guys that can play there.
Yeah, I think looking at the battle that those two guys have had left tackle with Blasky, because remember, he missed part of the camp. He got sick. Kirby mentioned that. And then for Ernest Green to get banged up, whoever wins that spot, they will have had one hell of a camp to actually get there. But give me your thoughts real quick on Jackson Meeks. I know people, when they start naming Georgia receivers, they're talking Dominic Lovett, Lad McConkey, Brock Bowers, of course, the tight end. it takes a while before they get to Jackson Meeks, but you were big on him last year. You mentioned some of the contributions that he made, and I just hate it for him because his guys really seem to be coming on.
Yeah, he's been a real demon on special teams and on every element of special teams. And he realized with the receivers we had, that was his best shot. So he puts a lot of effort. I mean, I mentioned on this podcast one day that I was over there going to the training room, and he came running up to me and said, "Hey, coach, I'm number one on the punt team." And, you know, I mean, for a guy to be happy about that, to me, shows you what kind of morale you got on the. He's a very dedicated guy, and he's had a good spring and fall from what I've heard catching the ball too. You know, he made the first week several big catches in the scrimmage I read about. So, but when you get there's a difference between some of these ankle injuries, like Lawson Lucky had to have surgery on his. I don't know that this guy has. I mean, I haven't heard what did Kirby say about it. He say he had a stress fracture, or what did he say?
Something like that. It was just he didn't give us a lot of details.
It hurts you for sure to have an experienced guy not be. So you're not only got to put somebody in for him on one group, but three groups for sure. I mean, he's on the punt team, the punt cover, punt return team, the kickoff return team, the kickoff coverage. So somebody might not be that versatile, and you got to put somebody in like three, maybe four guys to take one guy's position. So, but to me, the one thing that we do very good is have really competitive situations to make that special team. So there's guys looking at, hey, how can I be one of the 70 travel guys? I mean, we don't have to travel until Auburn, the fifth game, but you know, he talks to him about it. Hey, that's going to be the difference. If you're on a special team compared to this guy, I'll take you, you know. So to me, that's got to be really tough for any of these guys because we got about 95 or 100 guys, 25 or 30 that could be that 70th guy. I mean, there's not a lot of drop-offs there between our first and fourth team. I mean, certain guys maybe, but we got a really, as I mentioned to you, Roddy, this spring, we've got a very talent-laden team as far as athleticism. And you and Dayne both been over there for viewing sessions. You got to just be wowed by the way they look athletically, aren't you? Or, of course, you can find something wrong with him, find something wrong.
Coach, over the last couple of years, like I've been wowed by the guys that don't end up playing or the ones that transfer to someone else to play. When I saw, was it MK Sherman out there? Oh, this guy, he's it's an Adonis. Like he's just so built. And then now he's doing it for Nebraska. But like, that's one of the guys that didn't play much at Georgia. So then you look at the ones that do.
Hell, the kickers are ripped.
I think one thing, and Roddy can jump in there, just think about guys like Robert Beal. Several years ago, I'm thinking to myself, hey, this guy's he just going to have a hard time getting out there. I mean, look at all the guys in front of him, and he hung around and did what he had to. And you got that same kind of situation with Madden and some of these other guys, to me, that are really surfacing. I mean, a guy like Terrell, I don't know if it's Terrell Foster or what. How do you pronounce his first name? Foster, number 30 from ING Academy, is a walk-on linebacker that really got everybody's attention with Munden being out. He's gotten a chance, and the guy got an interception the other day. I read he's a player. I mean, he can play special teams, and nobody's even talking about him. We're talking about all these other linebackers, but Schumann develops all the guys. One thing that there's one thing that I feel like that overwhelms everything, every part of our practice. You teach and coach every player every day here. Every guy feels like he's getting the attention that if you do what I'm telling you, it's going to work, and our system's going to work, and you hang around and you're going to play. And that's not also, that's reality. And you base that looking at some of these guys that, you know, Amir Speed, I never thought he would play. He ended up getting to play, and then was great on special teams and got to go play for this, you know, same thing with some other guys. So it's good.
No, you're right, Dane, because you look at, just saw a note that Dominic Blaylock and Brett Seether will be playing in the Benz this weekend for Georgia Tech. So you can look at the guys that transferred elsewhere that couldn't quite make the cut. But, yeah, when you walk out there, Coach, and you look at the we've kind of gone back and forth about the backup running back situation, and we've had some comments about who's going to run the ball, especially from Phil Rogers. But I've said for years, while Dane was talking about how Cash Jones looked, I'm like, look at Savon Clark. Look at these kickers, look at these punters. And we heard the punting was great on this past week, although hopefully Georgia doesn't need to punt the ball a whole lot. But when you look at them,
they punted 36 times last year.
That's still not very often. When you look at the 1, 2, we'll go now that school's back in sessions. You've got your 125, I think you can have out there. When you look at the 85 scholarship, the 20 preferred walk-ons, this just looks different. And Mike Bobo was asked about this. They're like, do these guys look different than when you were here the first time? And he's like, well, they've done a really good job recruiting. Mike Bobo completely underselling how they look night and day different than where they were. And again, it's that coaching everybody up so that when you have a guy go down and you can drop in Robert Beal or Chaz Chambliss, a guy that you went after really hard, but that Terrell Foster that nobody knows who the hell that kid is, or Mekhi Muse. Mekhi Muse apparently caught everything in the scrimmage. And he's 5 foot nothing. He looks 47 years old, but he cannot be caught. And you're winning. Ladd McConkey, who the hell thought Ladd McConkey would be that guy? My point is, the teams that lost to Georgia for national championships are complaining about injuries that they had. They weren't ready to plug and play somebody else. And I think that Georgia's advantage is what you were talking about, Coach. When you look at the 1 to 105, and you got to narrow it down to 70. The 70 badasses that you put on that travel roster, when they go into someone else's stadium, even if they lose somebody, all 70 of those guys can perform. And that has just – I'm taking the coaching out of it. I know that's not fair, but you got better players. You're winning games.
SEC games we've lost in the last 5 years on the road.
I missed the question.
How many SEC games we lost on the road in the last 5 years?
Ooh, I don't know.
Last time we lost on the road, true road game, was LSU.
Wow.
That's at a flashback. That was Rodrigo trying to fake field goal with and that was Grant Delpit was out there for LSU. Wow.
That's what somebody said to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think you're right. I mean, regular season loss. Is it still South Carolina 19? They lost at Auburn that 1 year, the year before. But wow, that's learning this on the air. One of my favorite pieces of
was 2017. 2018, we lost to LSU on the road.
One of my favorite pieces of the development side and one of my favorite parts of this job is when you start hearing that a guy that's been on the roster for a while, either light comes on, putting it together, they just seem like things are easier for them than they were. And Coach, Dylan Fairchild is a name that I've probably heard more in the last month than I have the last 2 years. And I think that's really fun when a guy like that begins to apparently make some progressions to play more.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about his strength, the fact that he, was a high school wrestler. Everybody talked among the players, he's one of the strongest guys out there. It's kind of like Chambliss, but he's kind of a Swiss Army knife guy, can move around, play different positions, and really is geared into wanting to play and has understood his role and has really become a better technique guy. And he'll certainly help us, that's for sure.
I was waiting for Roddy to transition to an ad. If you want to be a technician.
I would mention if you want to have everyone talking about your new status and that the fact that you've kind of blown up and that everybody wants to know how you're doing what you're doing, you can cheat. You can absolutely cheat. You can start a new career. You can become your own boss. You can transition your current job into something a lot better. If you just want to get out of the rat race, reach out to our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. Reach out to Andy Ludecky. He will walk you through it. He does. You don't have to pay him anything. You can just call him up. You can email him. You can send him smoke signals, whatever you want to do. He will help you get to where you want to be. And it's the easiest thing in the world. It's an absolute no-brainer. He's going to ask you, what are you looking to do? And he asks the important questions, the stuff that you don't think about. And he guides you into a huge list of possible franchises that you could start. You can do one while you keep your current job. You can drop what you're doing and go there. You can, how do you get financing? How much time does it take? All that, what do I do from a tax situation? He can help guide you through all that. And then all of a sudden, you're successful and everyone's like, wow, I like the new car in the driveway. You're moving houses. How do you afford that expensive house? Everybody be talking about you like you're talking about Dylan Fairchild moving up. So that's the easiest way to do it, is reach out to Andy Linatecki at myperfectfranchise.net. Also, if you want to do something really cool, check out our friends over at Academia Brewing Company. Let's say you're not ready. I'm not ready to go full on into buying a franchise. I just want to go to dinner. Well, check out our friends at Academia Brewing Company. They've won the People's Choice for having the best trivia night. They've also won the People's Choice Award for having the best pregame and postgame spots in Athens. So if you're coming for that UT Martin game and you want some great beer, swing by Academia Brewing Company. They will take care of you. They have great new food out there. They've got car shows going on all the time. A new Death Ripper beer. That sounds fun. They have a wild mushroom pasta with chicken and shrimp going on. It's all kinds of crazy food going on out there, crazy beers going on. So check out Academia Brew Company. You will not be sorry you did. And take some beer home with you when you leave after Saturday or Sunday. If you leave on Saturday after the game, or if you spend the night in Athens and go home on Sunday.
I want to give a couple non-football shout-outs to Georgia athletes or alumni. Part of a world record in track with Matt Bowling. That was the 4x400 meter. I think he ran the third leg of that. Just awesome. That guy's incredible. 3 former Georgia golfers are playing in the Tour Championship at Eastlake in Atlanta this week. The winner of the Tour Championship gets $18 million. That's Brian Harmon, who friend of UGASports.com. That is Sepp Straka, a young alumnus, and then Russell Henley, also in the Tour Championship. So we hope all of them play well over at Eastlake. If you're in the Atlanta area, go check that out. There's a question from UGAsports.com that I'm sneaking earlier into our show. We tend to wait on these, but I really enjoyed this one. This is from Bush Dog. It says, in your opinion, which of the 12 opposing regular season quarterbacks that UGA faces will have the most success against Georgia? And I say this in part because as of the last 30 minutes, our friend Kelly Quinlan over at the Georgia Tech Rivals site has reported that Georgia Tech has named its starting quarterback. And it's Haynes King, the former Texas A&M quarterback. So, potential quarterbacks playing Georgia: Haynes King, Jackson Dart, Joe Milton, Graham Mertz, Brady Cook, if he keeps the job at Mizzou, Devin Leary at Kentucky, Peyton Thorne, the Michigan State transfer, is at Auburn, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina. So, Coach, is there a quarterback that Georgia faces that you think's better off than the rest?
Well, Brady Cook did a good job last year against us, so he's got the upper hand, I would think, at this point. So, but who knows? I mean, Milton scares me just because of the offense they're in, and we're playing at Tennessee. But who's the quarterback from Tennessee? Martin. He's the one that worries me the most. So.
I knew that was coming. I was going. I sit there waiting. He's going to say Tennessee Martin.
He's got a Tennessee Martin half last year. I mean, their coach is really good. His dad. He's the dad of the quarterback for Alabama. I mean, he knows how to coach. And everybody's telling you how bad you're going to beat them and all that. And these kids are going to come down there and play out of their mind. So, but it's definitely a good question. We're going to see some good quarterbacks, and you got to have one to win. I mean, I think Spencer Rattler has got to keep playing like he did at the end of the year, but I don't know how good his supporting cast is going to be. The situation for us against South Carolina is probably we're going to get the best South Carolina they got because they don't have a lot of depth. I think toward the end of the year they could fall off, but I could be wrong too. But they lost a lot of players and then guys transferred. They got a tough schedule. I mean, easily in the East the toughest schedule because they haven't beaten Missouri in 4 years. They got to play at A&M, which they've never won. They haven't hardly even been competitive against us, like even in the first half the last 3 years. So Tennessee mauled them last year. Florida year before last at Tennessee. Florida beat them last year. They got a tough game with Kentucky always. So plus they got Clemson and North Carolina in non-conference games. So
yeah, I was going to go with Spencer Rattler, and I just looked it up while we were sitting. I just remember him throwing a lot of touchdowns, especially towards the end, but also remember him having so many interceptions. And this is not a great ratio. He threw 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So that's not good. And then
I said this on I was on a little deal with Jeff Dantzler, who all of us friend. He's got a new radio show I hope everybody will listen to once in a while. Not on Tuesday because that's when ours is. Spencer Rattler doing too many interviews for me. I mean, there comes a point where you don't talk about yourself near as much as he's talking, and he's got that deal with Mercedes. He's sporting that big $100,000 Mercedes car around. More power to him for getting it, but I saw what he did at Oklahoma when he was in the limelight, and I just squelch it a little bit and just make sure that you're happy with the way he played at the end of the year. And careful.
I don't see Shane Beamer telling him to do fewer interviews because Shane Beamer is out there a lot himself.
Yeah, he probably is because he's taken away from Shane doing it. Dayne is media friendly, boy. I tell you,
we should get him on the show. Hell yeah, Dayne, call him.
He does it.
He may be watching right now.
He knows us.
He's the only coach I ever heard at SEC media days that said he'd been watching all the other coaches.
That's how you get good ideas. But I'm going to finish my thought here.
Can you imagine Kirby watching Nick Saban or watching you?
I can imagine watching Saban, not anybody else.
Why would he not watch him? He's been around him for 12 years.
That's true.
He knows exactly what he's going to say. He doesn't like to do anything.
Just in case you let something slip that Kirby can use.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll tell you the one that I'm a bit concerned. Kentucky with the receiver talent that I saw there, and I know Leary is a good player, and I'm not just hyping up the former NC State quarterback because I'm on a show with one. If Kentucky's offensive line is improved, now it has to be vastly improved, I can see Kentucky's offense being pretty good this year.
Yeah, I mean, they need to be. They were terrible last year, and they got good receivers. I mean, really good receivers, and I'm high on that kid from NC State that's there. I think he'll be actually more productive than the guy they had. So
Levis,
it'll be interesting how if their defense keeps playing good, but they've got it. We'll get to see Kentucky early because they played Ball State the first game, and so we got Ball State. So I'll be looking at scouting Kentucky in that game.
There you go. I was going to say Spencer Rattler of the quarterbacks Georgia will see might give them the toughest time just because, again, you mentioned that game being early, and when South Carolina gets Georgia earlier in the year and they're healthy, they're starting 44 versus you're starting 44. It's more competitive than later in the year when they've suffered some losses and you're just much deeper. But then I'm kind of looking back to last year that Rattler led the SEC in number of interceptions with 12. Jackson Dart was the other guy I was thinking of. He was right there with 11. So it's not, that was number one and number two in the interception categories. I really can't think of who else concerns me, but
Joe Milton. I mean, seriously, Joe.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But to me, that's more system. Is that fair? I'm more worried about the system than I am him personally, just kind of taking the game over and just whipping you. I'm worried about seeing LSU, seeing that Jaden Daniels kid again.
Joe Milton easily has the strongest arm outside of G.I. Joe in the country.
There you go.
He's got an unbelievable arm. So, and the system is But the thing that always keeps me a little bit from going overboard on Joe is he won the job and then he lost it. So they needed to make a change with him. There was something about him that wasn't working. So hopefully it won't work this year.
And Roddy, the more that I've covered this, and maybe I'm just thinking of last year with, interceptions is the sin at quarterback. You can't turn the ball over. But Brian Kelly was telling Jaden Daniels, you have 0 interceptions, and that's not a good thing because you're not taking enough calculated chances here.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, Brett Favre, close to all-time leader in interceptions in the pros. What are you going to do, fire him? I mean, look at the plays he made when he took chances. I mean, I never worry about interceptions that much unless it's just dumbass ones. But if you just hold the ball and don't throw in the tight windows, you're not going to be a winning quarterback because you got to do that. The defenses are just too good.
That's a good point. Before we get any further there, I want to mention our friends over at Athens Ford and mention some of their specials here. And this is basically, you can take a chance and know that it's going to turn out for you very well. You can just go out to Athens Ford, check out the 2023 F-150s, check out the 2023 Ford Mustangs. You will be thrilled to death. You can't make a mistake with those. And they have some great financing deals, some great sales going on. The F-150, you can get up to $6,000 off and 3.9% financing for 60 months. You can get the Mustang Mach-E GT all-wheel drive for $499 a month for 48 months, $3,000 due at signing. The Ford Explorer, you can get up to $4,000 off and 2.9% APR financing for 60 months. 2.9% is pretty bloody good. So check out the Expedition Platinum, their Ford Escape, all the fantastic Ford vehicles they have out there. And again, if you're like, well, don't really want to get a new one, let me go get a pre-owned vehicle. Again, you're not really taking a chance. It's going to be as easy and secure as possible because just about any car you buy out there will have a lifetime powertrain warranty. So even if you're buying a pre-owned vehicle, it's going to go through their huge inspection process, and you can drive off the lot knowing you have a lifetime powertrain warranty on it. So basically, as long as it's under like 80,000 miles and isn't, a Beamer or something like that, some car that's hard to fix. So check out our friends at Athens Ford. You'll be very, very glad you did. And it is Tuesday. We talk about this every Tuesday when we do the show. We mention our friends over at YourPie. Check out the YourPie app. It's Double Points Tuesday. If you order the Great White Pizza, the Buffalo Chicken, the Nat's Chicken Pesto, the Hot Honey Pepperoni, any of those, or you do a salad, or you do a pasta, or you do gelato, or you do drinks or chips, whatever, you'll get double points, and those points are very quickly redeemable for breadsticks, for pizzas, for gelato. They hit me up. I got an email from them the other day saying, happy half birthday. So it was, I guess August 16th is my half birthday. And I get free ice cream for that. And I'm like, yeah, free gelato for that? No, sure. So getting the app is a good idea. Plus, they also have some deals going on. They know that back to school is a busy time for families. And right now, if you pop up the app, there are all sorts of deals for back to school. So hit up our friends at YourPie. And again, we talked about franchises earlier. If you want a great business, call them about opening your own YourPie franchise. I saw one in Dahlonega when I took my son back to school on Sunday. I'm like, man, these mountain folks have some good pizza. So try them when you get a chance. Oh, Dane, we lost you there.
Question here from Brad Newsom, who's watching on YouTube. Who's the fourth tight end behind Spurlin and Lucky? Which I found to be pretty intriguing because if Lucky's out for a bit of time, you're looking at 3 scholarship tight ends. So who could be some other guys on the roster that play there? Does it change the offense? Do you look at a walk-on? How do you manage that, Coach?
Hey, that's a good question. I don't know who you – I mean, we got Sheehan, who's a nice player. His dad's a coach. I think he's a tight end that's been around, but I don't really know. Godey went to Mississippi State. Seether's playing for Georgia Tech. Lucky's hurt, so we got Delpin and Spurlin. I don't know who would be the next guy.
I was trying to figure out how to pronounce this kid's last name. He just stuck out to me because I took some pictures of him and he was going pretty hard on the reps. David Lalalian, Lalalian. IAN. So, David, I apologize, or to David's family. I don't know how to say it, but yeah, Sheehan and Lillian might be the
What
guys.
numbers, Lilly?
Yeah, that's I think
81. 81. He's from Monroe, so just down the road. Played at Monroe area.
Hey, Monroe, that's tough sledding there. That's a kid's going to have some grit in his teeth. So if he can make it to Georgia, same with Drew, then yeah, I like it.
Well, but see, this is the calculus that I think is really fun to see what Mike Bobo does with this, because you say, all right, Georgia has a lot more depth at receiver, a lot of explosive players. How do you find ways to adjust the offense to the strengths that you have? Because it's not going to be this, maybe the total strength of what tight end was last year when you had Bowers and Darnell Washington and Delp and then even Godey and Seether behind that. So I'd be curious to see what the formations look like, Coach. I think it's going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, you always look at who get your best 11 out there. So we seem to have more receivers than we do tight ends. But you don't have to – I mean, we substitute more than anybody, so you don't necessarily have to play 4 or 5 deep. You could – it's okay for a guy to run 8 or 10 plays in a row. I mean, I'm being facetious, but we run a out of there, that's for sure.
Last year, you're talking about the rotation of the running backs. Folks, if you don't do the watch-along show, you have to do that. It's basically the three of us. We have a camera on us while the game's going on, so you can watch UT Martin on your television and then on your laptop or your iPad or your cell phone. Just go to this YouTube channel or our Facebook channel, and you can watch us in real time make comments on the game. Now, you're not there to tune into me talking about Yingling beer. You're not there to hear Dayne's bad jokes. You're there to listen to Coach Donnan call the plays before they happen and complain when a running back breaks off a good run and then they yank his ass out. And Coach's like, why are you taking him out?
I don't do that a lot. But,
I know you don't. I'm teasing. But you'll be like,
I did get
we've only thrown the ball to 19 4 times.
Shout
What's
out
the first
to
drive, Coach.
A friend of mine that actually does does radio for one of those networks that's doing the tournament over there. You might see him over at East Lake. Doug Bell. I did a little deal with him. He and I used to do some TV together, and he said that all of our he said, we got 10 guys on the PGA Tour. He said every one of those guys are tuned in to Georgia football, so they read about it and listen to it. He said more than anybody. He said, Justin Thomas does a lot for Alabama. He said, but of course those guys are pretty happy right now because we're winning. But he said those guys can't get enough of Georgia football. So I thought it was great to hear that about our golfers.
Yeah,
I agree. Let's get some more questions from UGASports.com. This is from Bulldog Ben. Higher chance of having 1,000-yard receiver or running back this season. Also, who do you think leads the team in rushing? Which, we get this question a lot about 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver. I don't really care. And I definitely don't think coaches care about who gets 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably not going to see it as much as we sub unless Bowers has a couple 150, 200-yard first halves or something. I don't know. That's a very good question, and I respect it, but we've been able to win without that. So we spread it around pretty good. So I don't see it happening myself.
I'm good. I think, again, I don't want to say you shouldn't care about it. Like you said, the coaches don't care. That's true. But it does come up on the recruiting trail. And I'm not to say that makes a kid decide one way or the other, but it's just like when Georgia was having a hard time recruiting defensive linemen. It's like it's been so long since they've had one drafted, and that comes up. So when you look at the wide receivers, you're like, man, they haven't had a wide receiver run. They're RBU. They build themselves as RBU, And so if you're a 5-star wide receiver, you're like, man, that's just the school that runs the ball. Why should I go there? They haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver in a long time. And I want to put up something that Anthony Dasher wrote this morning. He wrote 10 predictions that could go wrong, and one of his was that Brock Bowers, 10 predictions sure to go wrong for Georgia. One of those was Brock Bowers would get into the 1,000-yard receiving club, and I thought, I don't know about that, but he pointed out, he had 942 yards last year, And if you're playing 15 games, and as Coach says, if you're some of these blowouts, they're going to pull him. I don't think Brock Bowers got a ton of snaps in either of the scrimmages. You don't need to put him out there. So, but if they actually go all 15 games, then maybe you could have that. And I just don't see a running back in this. Hell, all the running backs are injured. So I just don't see a 1,000-yard rusher back there the way they're going to split up the carries. But I could see Brock Bowers, you throw him a 5-yard pass, he runs 70 yards. Now he's almost at a 100-yard game right off the bat.
You're not going to have
100 yards receiving, though, if he ran 175.
Yeah, but they give him all the yards.
Radi, you're not going to have 1,000-yard running back.
10 predictions on Brock Bowers, and 8 of them be right. So predict anything you want to about him, and it'll be right.
Wins the Heisman. There you go.
Got a chance.
Billy Zane with this question. Nazir and Brinson are really good players at nose and defensive tackle spots, but more in a traditional sense of clogging gaps and chewing up blockers, not necessarily in the same mold as Carter, Wyatt, Davis in terms of blowing up plays in the backfield. Billy Zane's question, do you agree with that assessment? And if so, do you see more run blitz packages as a result?
I feel like both those guys have really surfaced to a point where they really can make a difference up front. And we don't get into making comparisons about players as far as our coaches publicly, but you look at the strengths of our defense, and you see the edge guys like Michael and Marvin Jones and Chambliss, and also you could see more structure where you loop the end and tackle instead of just the tackle taking on a guy or the nose tackle stuff in the center and letting the linebackers run through. I think we'll see more outside pressure than we've ever had. And I'll even say we'll probably see some because you're ahead, we probably see some stuff like we did Lanning's year when you bring the corners and the star some. So I think we'll see a lot of field pressure.
Question from Coach, this is one of your favorites. Big Fatty 94. Who are some players on your radar that may not be on fans' radars right now?
From Georgia?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fans' radar is, so it's a good question. But some young guys that I feel like can really make contribution. Jordan Hall on defense, Harris, the corner. I got my roster here today, and I was going to give you a one-word sentence on a lot of these guys here. How much time we got?
Oh, we got time to do what you want to. I'll give you a name that I've just heard good things about in the last couple of weeks. That's Jared Wilson. I think he's ready to go.
Jared Wilson, of course. Good player. Troy Bowles, good player. Roderick Robinson has come along. Nyland Green is really stressing to have a chance to be number one corner. Roseby St. Jacks, you can't say much more about him. He's a player, special teams. Kendall Milton got to get healthy. Munden got to get healthy. Laster got to get healthy. All three of these guys are really good, among the best players in the country if they're healthy. Like the guy that couldn't say his R's. A1, you better say your pues. If those three guys are playing. Andrew Paul, I'm really happy with his development. He's come back. Delpa's got even more chance now with Lucky out to play even more. He was going to play anyhow. That takes care of 1 through 4. So maybe next week we'll do some more. But I could go Ra Thomas. I'm a Ra fan. Raylan Wilson has been hurt. Everett really looks like that guy. At the other corner, maybe Julio Humphreys might be that guy. I'm not sure who this guy is here. Okay, next on here is Dominic Lovett. We can't say enough about him. Marvin Jones Jr., number 7 in your program, number 1 in your heart. Lawson Lucky's hurt, but he's going to be a good player. Jonel Aguero, this guy is stronger than Aunt Mary's breath. Has a little problem with his hamstring, Kirby said. Meeks is out for a little bit. Rhett has had a good fall. He's starting to come on as a safety. And then Dumas Johnson, preseason All-American. So that takes you 1 through 10.
Why did we even do the rest of the show, Roddy? Why didn't we just start with that?
Should just open with it. Well, he didn't tell us he was going to do that. We just open it, coach, go, explain, run 1 through 10. We'll have it good. So
that's okay. Well, that tells you about him, doesn't it?
I mean, I wanted that sooner is the only thing. Like, as a producer, I feel like I have failed our audience. I just coach football, go.
So what coach is just doing, he's running 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. Those single digit numbers are always going to be some really, I don't say reserved for star players, but you got to represent if you're going to be a 3 or 5 or 7. That's and guys will say, hey, I'll sign with you, but I want a guaranteed single number. And we see that in recruiting all the time. And it's like, I imagine Kirby's like, look, if you're going to come in and be number 3, you damn sure better earn it. And going 0 through 10 there.
Yeah.
That's a murderer's row of talent.
Tyler Williams has come on. I mean, he didn't do that much in the spring, but doing better. Arian Smith, I think, is going to have a huge year.
The other 11's pretty good too.
Jalen Walker, we can't say enough about him. I mean, he did a good job with the interview the other day. Julio Humphrey, I say he's going to maybe be the starter. It's between him and Everett. Vandergrif's had a good camp, and he's a heck of a player. Could play for a lot of teams. Zeed Haynes, I mean, come on, that guy's got really good ability. Just got to get on the field. Michael Williams is probably among the best players in the country. Is coming off an injury. Really impressive player. David Daniel, really solid back there, backup safety. Gunnar Stockton, everybody's talking about Stockton, but really is shown a lot of improvement. Carson Beck, give him a lot of credit for hanging in there and winning the job. I look for a big year out of him. Harris is another receiver that you haven't heard about. Harris is a good DB too that we haven't talked about near as much as we had number 4. The other, what's number 4? The other Harris kid, the corner.
AJ Harris.
That's enough for me. I'm losing my mind here. I can't.
Well, there's a lot of Harrises, but AJ Harris is that is a brilliant young freshman that's going to turn some heads. So,
a few questions that we have left from Cajun Dog. I've seen comments about Carson Beck making some plays with his legs, buying some time. Can you describe his mobility a bit more?
He's good enough to get out of trouble. That's not one of his strong suits, but he knows how to avoid the rush. He knows where the pressure's coming. Part of a quarterback's MO is to avoid by moving in the pocket, which he can do good enough. He's not – I would say he's more agile than JT for sure, but that's not his strong suit. But he knows where the pressure's coming, and he's got a good delivery, good release. So he's capable of avoiding the rush, that's for sure. He's just not a real threat to run the ball.
From Moultrie Dog, Coach, what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders and his approach at Colorado? Will he win there with time?
I think they're going to have to give him time because I just don't see any way with that schedule they got this year that they're going to win big. I mean, completely revamped squad, that's for sure. He's got some really good players, that Hunter kid, some of those guys. But if they win more than 3 games this year, I'll be really surprised.
Roddy, we have some sponsors that we need to mention before because I've let the show get to 5 minutes and we still have 3 questions left.
Well, there's only one sponsor left we need to mention real quick, and I do want to bring up our friends at DeadSoxy. Now is the time to go ahead and get your order in for your red and black socks. The ones on the screen there have the little Georgia stripe logo, or you have the Georgia with a star where the Athens is in it. Stripes, solid colors, all sorts of very nice, very comfortable socks from our friends at DeadSoxy.com. If you go there and you want to get like the 4-pack, you see it's $66. They will be your favorite socks, and you can get them for 25% off if you use promo code UGASports. So use promo code UGASports, get your 25% off, get your lucky socks. They've been a sponsor for 2 years. Georgia's won 2 titles, and coincidence maybe, but don't break a streak. So if you've been getting socks from them the past 2 years and you've worn them to the championship games, you got 11 days. They ship pretty fast. And, of course, when they come, they look fantastic. So if you have somebody that you're trying to get a gift for, you can actually buy them socks and look cool because the packaging is so first class that you don't have to worry about wrapping it. You can present it to them, and it looks like you've gotten them something of quality because you have.
Question from Moultrie Dog. Coach, what are your thoughts on Todd Hartley and his future? Is he an offensive coordinator or is he a head coach somewhere? And that's from Blocker 57, actually.
Yeah, I really think Todd's got tremendous people skills. He's got really good background in coaching. You know, he's been other places and done well. He left Georgia and went to Marshall, and my friends up there raved about the job he did there. And then he came back here, and then he went and did a good job for Coach Rick at Miami. He's very good with the players, and he does a lot of coaching besides just tight ends. He's really all in on the punt team. He knows that inside and out, and he's got a great future. He could be an offensive coordinator. Every one of our guys could. McClendon's already been one. Dell McGee has. Stacy Searles is an outstanding line coach. You know, all these guys are capable and could be head coaches too.
I agree. I could definitely see him being an offensive coordinator or a head coach. It's just that guy. He has that it factor, and the way he loves to recruit, he definitely has a strong future.
From PC Pup, after every touchdown, Brock Bowers goes immediately to the sideline phone. Is he ordering wings? If he's talking to coaches, what's there to discuss at that time?
Yeah, the guys that go to the sideline to talk on the phone or talking to their position coach in the press box. Otherwise, you go over and see your position coach. Most linemen will be over there with Coach Searles or Coach Hartley's in the press box, and part of that is to assist Coach Bobo or in the past Coach Munkin with telling them about the defense as he's getting ready to call the play, but also monitoring the special teams. He's got a direct line in to Coach Smart on all the special teams too. So, but they have a separate phone that's not with the headsets. That's just a telephone that we call a player phone that the assistant coaches call and talk to the players because you don't want it on the headset where everybody else is talking and all. So he's basically tells him, I'll basically tell you what goes on between Brock and Hartley. Good job, Brock. 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 I mean, what else are you going to tell the guy?
Thank you for scoring again.
He said, you know, that was really ridiculous. You got tackled on the 2-yard line. You had one more step and you'd have got another touchdown. No, I mean, essentially what they tell them, I don't want is, hey, good job, but look, when we're running this, they're trying to banjo you. That means double cover, one guy inside out. Or when we're doing this, they're playing outside leverage. So you might stem the guy up a little bit more or step on his toes, what we call. Get close enough to him, step on his toes, and then he can't take away the outside or inside. You know, square him up, stem him up. Or, hey, they're playing a 4-eye tackle, and that 4-eye tackle he thinks going inside, but he's slanting outside on the double team. So you're going to have to stay a little bit longer on him before you go to the next level to block the linebacker on the outside zone or whatever it might be. Those are some tips there.
And final question today from Sauce All On Me. Says, I know Coach is a huge New Mexico State fan and admits that that's sarcasm. Coach, are you pulling for them in prime time in ESPN against UMass?
Is that who's playing in the pillow fight of the week?
That's the question. I can go look up the line if you'd like for me to.
I can just tell you the story about New Mexico. We won't even have a joke. This is the New Mexico State. I'm doing a game for ESPN2, and New Mexico State does not have a press box elevator. And I didn't know that they had a guy down there that would take in a golf cart and drive you up this ramp to the place. I just knew that I needed to get my ass up there because we're getting ready to do the show, preliminary show. and it's going to be about 10 minutes from there. So I started hoofing it up there, and you can't imagine the atmosphere there. I don't know how many above sea, but I mean, I'm about halfway up the ramp, and I'm taking the gas, man. I mean, I'm in pretty good shape. This is like 15 years ago. And I'm thinking, good God, I'm going to have a heart attack on national television. And the problem on top of that, I'd eaten some heavy Mexican food about 2 hours before that. And, man, I had bad indigestion on top of everything. And so I didn't know if it was a heart attack or indigestion, but I'm just thinking I can't run anymore if I'm late. So I walked on up there, and the guy said, "Didn't you take the cart?" I said, "What cart?" So New Mexico State, I hope they got a press box elevator now, but if they don't, it was a terrible experience for the old coach getting to that press box. Terrible.
Hey, get your shit together, New Mexico State. We don't want people dying on their way to do TV. Exactly. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We will be back next Tuesday, game week.
Game week next week. That's right. Get your game face on.
Yep. Be sure to hit the subscribe button like we mentioned in our opening, and also start making your plans a week from this Saturday to watch Georgia along with Coach Dayne and myself on the only watch-along show out there. Or I'm sure it's
6 o'clock. That game is 6?
Yep.
6 o'clock. I might take a nap. I've been going to bed early. I don't know if I can make it to 9.
Oh, please. I don't believe that for a second. All right, folks, again, be sure to join us on this channel. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can do the same thing. When we have of course, next Tuesday, jump in with us at noon, but also a week from Saturday, 6 o'clock. Join us for the watch-along show. We'll see you then.